Hey everyone, this is Beardly Zero, and excuse me for wearing my jacket because it's fucking cold. It is 5 degrees outside. 5 degrees. That's 5 degrees Fahrenheit for all you people who aren't American. Because we're the only people who still use... Yeah, we're not on metric. I don't know. Metric is just too hard for our brains. I tried to learn metric. No. Anyways... Get off that little tangent there. And this is going to be my review for Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 10. I don't know the name. I was too lazy to look it up. I'm too cold to look it up. I'll do that later. But, yeah, as you know, my reviews, I basically run down the key points of the episode, through my notes, stuff like that. Give you my thoughts on those events, and then I give you a score at the end. So, let's get cracking. Just want to say, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode, obviously don't watch this video unless you want something spoiled. Anyways. Opens with Maggie depressed and crying. Something horrible seems to have happened. It's just, they're at their wits' end. And, let's see. Daryl ate a worm. Water dried up and killed all the frogs in a creek, and Sasha buries them. That was a nice touch, I think. Although you should have just took the frogs and ate them, I think. But, speaking of eating animals, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. Seems some time has passed since the group is at wit's end. And we get a note a couple minutes after I put this note down. That is 3 weeks since Atlanta. So it's been 3 weeks since Beth has died, and we don't know how long it's been since Tyreese. I don't know if this is like the next day or whatsoever. And they more so mourn Beth this entire episode, and I'll get to my little notes about that. But let's see. Sasha and Michonne have a minor confrontation, and I didn't think that was going to go anywhere, but we'll get to that in a minute. Still grieving about Beth, and I put still in all capitals. We get it. Beth was a major character. A lot of people love Beth. But you spent 5 episodes of them trying to get her. She dies, and now you're spending 2 more episodes trying to grieve her. No other character has gotten this amount of grief. And Tyreese just died the last episode, and nobody mentions his name. I mean, they this one moment, I think it's Michonne's talking to Sasha, and Sasha says, we were nothing alike. That's the only fucking mention Tyreese gets. And that is a bummer. They're just dragging this Beth train out. And I was tired of the Beth storyline after those 5 episodes, and I was kind of glad she died because, hey, we get an awesome character death, something that's going to be emotional, and we don't have to deal with this crap anymore. And now they keep dragging it and dragging it and dragging it on. That's just, ugh. I hope this is the last we hear about Beth, Sure, we need grieving time, but still, this needs to end. Seriously. It's like the only person in the group that isn't really truly mourning her is Noah. He's just like, I want to survive. But, let's see. Bridge scene. They shove walkers off into the creek. Sasha Michonne builds more tension, so I think this is going to pay off later in the season. They almost fought, almost straight up fought. There's a lot of tension going on between them, and I think that's going to pay off eventually. So, sorry, I was eating tortilla chips before this. But, what the fuck? Can he read my own handwriting? Okay, Maggie finds a car that has a walker tied up in the trunk. Then she can't get it open, and then Glenn kills it. That was, I guess that was supposed to symbolize something. Not quite sure what it was. It just felt like a felt kind of like a pointless beat. Just like, hey, here's some 5-minute filler, so we don't have to write anything else noteworthy. And a pack of wild dogs comes up, and Sasha just murders every one of them. And then they eat them. Sure, they were barking at them and growling, but I mean, I've had dogs come up to me like that before, and all you gotta do is just be authoritative and show them you're no threat to them, and they won't be a threat to you. And I'm a big dog person. We have 5 dogs. 5 dogs. So seeing her just outright murder 5 dogs. No. I understand it in the context of, the apocalypse. They needed food, so they killed the dogs and they ate them. I would never do this personally, but I understand why they did it. And, put in here, where the fuck is Rosalina? Because before this moment, she had only appeared in like one fleeting glance, and then she barely shows up in this episode whatsoever. There's a lot of forgetting characters in this. I think at least 3 characters don't even have any dialogue. But it's just, the one thing, Rosalina has been a somewhat major secondary player, so you definitely notice her absence. So, yeah, she didn't really appear on the screen until like the last half of the episode, I think. But everyone walking down the road. Okay, let me say that again. Everyone's walking down the road, which is very boring. They're just doing these dialogue. Oh, blah blah blah, shit, blah 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 blah, shit, blah 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 blah. Filler. It's filler. And then Daryl breaks off from the group, goes and finds a place to smoke, and he puts the cigarette on his hand and burns himself, and then has himself a little cry. And I'm guessing this is more Morning of Beth. And just can we get over with it? No other character has had this much grieving. It's like Daryl gets not Daryl, Dale gets eaten right in front of everyone. Barely gets any grief time. That's Dale was a much better character than she was. Just saying. Let's see. There we go. Okay, we got that one. Where am I in my notes? Okay, someone leaves them water, and it rains for the first time since season 1. Alright, they're just walking in the road, and they find water bottles and, gallon jugs of water. And it says, from a friend. And these look like they're brand new, fresh out of fucking Walmart. And they're like, what? And Eugene tries to take a sip, and people, naturally, Abraham thinks it's poison, so he knocks it out of his hand and everything. Starts to rain, and then you see that there's a storm coming. So Daryl tells him about the barn he saw. They went to go hide in the barn, and that's when Rick does his whole speech, talking about how his grandfather survived World War II, basically pretending he was dead. Then he says, "We are the Walking Dead." And that's something that they've been saying for a while in subtext, I'd say for even like the past 2 seasons, they've been saying that in subtext. And it feels unnecessary to have him physically say it, because we already knew that. We've already been saying that in subtext, and it's one of those things where they always say the title of whatever you're talking about in the show. It feels weird. Like, even in Breaking Bad, it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna break bad. No. It seems very corny. And it's one thing to do it in subtext, but it's another thing to just outright physically say it. And that's definitely one moment I didn't like. Because it just, pretty much, if you're a long-time watcher of the show and you understand the show, you know that they've been saying for a while that they are The Walking Dead. So this just felt like an unnecessary beat, and it's just like for people who half watch the show or just don't really get it, casual viewers. I guess that's okay, but just I feel like this was an unnecessary beat because it's pretty easy to pick up that that subtext. And the door scene, I have to talk about the door scene. And this was so cool. And you see the storm coming up, and immediately when I saw that storm, I'm like, that looks like you could have some circulation. That looks like a fucking tornado. Like, that could produce a tornado. I've lived through so many tornadoes down here in the South that I know what to look for. My grandfather was a storm watcher and everything. He was a volunteer EMT, and he went out and helped people. The greats. I think it was Storm of '79. So he taught my mom what to look for in the storm. She taught me. So I know when a storm can produce a tornado. So I immediately saw. I'm like, shit. That could produce some circulation. That could do some damage. And that's when you see that there's a huge storm going on outside. They don't expressly say that it's a tornado. But the walkers are pounding on the door. The door's being pushed. And you can tell they're being pushed and sucked by the wind. So there is circulation because they're going like this. And that, my friends, is what a tornado does. It causes pressure, it circulates, and it makes things move like this. I'm trying to explain it when I have a short amount of time. Anyways, you see them cut to the next day. Well, let me say that. Everybody, except for Judith, because he puts Judith down, that holds the door and tries to defend the door. And that was very reminiscent of some scenes from Twister, which is pretty cool. And they cut to the next day, they open up the barn, and you just see the destruction of the tornado. And that really hit home with me because I've seen so much tornado damage firsthand. That was accurate. That was at least an F3 tornado. That was a very, very strong storm. And, some people were like, oh, it destroyed all the trees but left the barn standing. That happens all the fucking time down here. That is real. Nobody knows how it happens, but it'll take an entire subdivision but leave one house in the middle, destroy everything around it, but leave that one house perfectly intact, not a single fucking scratch. That's how tornadoes work. So it was nice to see that accurate tornado damage in this show, and that really drove the episode up for me because just to see that, accurately represented, in a show like this, that's really cool. That was definitely a tornado, just saying. And, let's see. Switching over to the next page. They may have covered this on Talking Dead. I don't know. I'm skipping Talking Dead to record this to get it up in time. So if they talk about it, sorry. Anyways, Sasha and Maggie are out talking. They're fooling with the music box and all that stuff. And you see bright day, beautiful. It's always beautiful like that after a tornado. It always is. Some of the most beautiful skies you'll ever see are after a tornado. Seriously. But this guy comes up, and first I'm like, shit, did this guy just walk onto the fucking set? The hell? Because he looks like he just got his clothes. He looks like a modern day person. Not in the apocalypse whatsoever. He's like, hey, how you doing? This guy just walked on the set. The fuck is this? And it turns out his name is Aaron. What's my name? He utters the word stranger danger. That's funny. And he knows Rick. So that's interesting. I'm thinking they are the people who left the water on the road. And the preview we saw for next week, which, I don't want to get into, but all this stuff seems just going to pay off. And I'm wondering if Morgan found these people. And that's how they know Rick. I don't know. This could be from the comics. I don't know. Like I've said many times before, I know up to the prison in the comics. And I know Negan. That's it. So, all this, missing time is, brand new to me in comics terms. So, I have no idea if this is accurate to the comics or not. If so, leave in the comments down below. And, hey there, friend. It's gonna get my school, Barbie. Yeah. Anyways, I am going to give this episode a solid 7 out of 10 because it was average up until that last point. And I think that drove it up. And yeah, it was just barely passing. And passing is a 6.5. Yeah, it's a 65. That's a passing score when I went to school. So definitely going to give it a 7 because it's above, a step above passing. And I enjoyed the last 10 minutes of this episode way more than the rest. But yeah, this feels like a stopgap episode. It feels like one that you might appreciate more once you see the bookends to it. But right now, 7.0 because that's how I feel about it. Anyways, I've been the Bearded Xeno for Clean Phoenix Entertainment. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comments down below. And I will see you in the next video.